Military squads, ninjas, fighter jets, aircraft carriers, tanks, assault vehicles, and powerful amphibious machines. G.I. Joe took over the world with its TV show, comic books, video games, and a massive toy line. A high-stakes mission packed with action and adrenaline. Today on the Retro Stories, the story of G.I. Joe. Let's get started. After World War II, the world was split into two opposing sides, each with radically different ideologies, locked in a constant, uneasy balance that would eventually spark the Cold War. During the 1950s, the United States experienced a period of prosperity and social growth that gave birth to some of the most iconic inventions and cultural phenomena of the century: the microchip, the credit card, rock and roll, fast food franchises like McDonald's, and toys like the hula hoop, and of course, Barbie.
Barbie dressed for swim and fun is only $3. Her lovely fashions range from $1 to $5. Look for Barbie wherever dolls are sold.
Barbie was created by Ruth Handler and launched by Mattel in 1959. She quickly became not only a favorite among American girls, but also Mattel's biggest source of revenue. At the same time, Hasbro, Mattel's biggest rival, was already scoring hits with toys like Mr. Potato Head. It was a simple set of plastic eyes, ears, noses, and mouths that kids could stick onto real vegetables to give them a face and a bit of personality.
Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head with their own cars and trailers. That's what's new. See, Mr. Potato Head has a car and boat trailer.
In the early 1960s, Barbie's popularity kept growing, and Hasbro decided to fight back.
She's the doll who needs more loving care than any doll you've ever had. Look, she has a tear on her cheek.
Little Miss No Name was quite literally a sad little orphan doll, tattered, skinny, and designed to tug at kids' heartstrings. She was the complete opposite of Barbie's glamorous world, aiming to evoke empathy instead of envy, but as you can probably guess, the idea was a total flop. Barbie kept rising, completely unchallenged. That's when Stanley Weston, a New Yorker who worked in licensing at the time, saw the success Mattel was having and came up with an idea of his own: military-themed action figures aimed squarely at boys. Hasbro bought his idea, developed the figures and accessories, showcased them at the New York Toy Fair in 1963, and launched them the following year under the name G.I. Joe.
G.I. Joe, G.I. Joe, fighting man from head to toe, on the land, on the sea, in the air.
G.I. Joe attack! Boom, boom!
G.I. Joe stands for Government Issue Joe, a term that could be loosely translated as government soldier. To avoid using the word doll, which was strongly associated with girls' toys, Hasbro came up with a new term: action figure. It was a scaled, articulated representation of a real soldier, one you could pose in different positions and even dress up with interchangeable uniforms.
Box after box of authentic uniforms and equipment, so you can change your G.I. Joe soldier into a camouflage Marine ready for battle, a Navy frogman with complete scuba suit and inflatable life raft, an Air Force pilot with high-altitude helmet and air vest.
The G.I. Joe line offered endless possibilities, but things didn't go exactly as Hasbro had hoped. By this time, the United States had already been involved for several years in the infamous Vietnam War, a conflict between North Vietnam's communist government and the Viet Cong, backed by China and the Soviet Union, against the government of South Vietnam. Up until 1964, the U.S. had only provided support in the form of resources and military aid. But everything changed when American ships were reportedly attacked by North Vietnamese forces. By 1965, the U.S. had thousands of troops actively fighting in Vietnam, marking its full-scale entry into the war.
The news breaks big in city and town. In one of his most important pronouncements on Vietnam, President Johnson says military strength will be increased from 75,000 to 125,000 men.
Although G.I. Joe initially seemed like a commercial hit, it soon ran into a harsh reality. By the late 1960s, a growing number of Americans had turned against the U.S. military's involvement in Vietnam. The Vietnamese, with the advantage of knowing the terrain, proved to be a far tougher opponent than the U.S. government had expected. The rising number of American casualties only fueled the public's outrage and opposition. Protests erupted across the country and around the world, led by hippies, students, and anti-war activists. By the early 1970s, anything related to war or the military had become deeply unpopular in the US, including toys, and the company decided to pull the line from shelves. However, by the early 1980s, all of that was about to change. After Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, and Jimmy Carter, the year 1981 brought a major shift. Actor Ronald Reagan was elected president, and the United States entered a brand new era. Reagan deregulated parts of the economy, cut taxes, and took a more aggressive stance in the Cold War. Pacifism and hippie movements were now a thing of the past. In this new context, Hasbro, riding the wave of renewed patriotic spirit, decided to reinvent its line of articulated dolls into a more dynamic and detailed series of action figures. And in 1982, they launched G.I. Joe, a real American hero.
He'll fight for freedom wherever there's trouble. G.I. Joe is there. It's here, the G.I. Joe collection.
The new action figures were no longer 12 inches tall, they were just 3.75 inches. The first wave included 11 individual characters sold separately, plus 4 more that came bundled with different vehicles. And then there was the legendary Cobra Commander, originally available only through a special mail order offer.
We saved the missiles, but you gotta get up early to catch Cobra.
Cobra Commander and G.I. Joe figures and equipment each sold separately.
The reinvention of G.I. Joe in the 1980s wasn't just about the new figures, it was also about building a whole universe around them. Hasbro partnered with Marvel Comics, and in June of 1982, they released the very first issue of G.I. Joe, a real American hero. Kids could grab a copy at the store for just $1.50.
The Legend of G.I. Joe, new from Marvel Comics.
Each 48-page issue featured 2 full-color stories, more than enough to slowly introduce kids to the characters and their world. But the real breakthrough came the following year, when an animated series took everything to a whole new level.
He'll fight for freedom wherever there's trouble. G.I. Joe is there. G.I. Joe, American hero.
From Monday, September 12th to Friday, September 16th of 1983, kids across America tuned in to watch a 5-part animated miniseries that marked G.I. Joe's official debut on TV. It was the first animated G.I. Joe event ever, split into 5 episodes that played out like one epic movie.
G.I. Joe, the action-adventure movie you've been waiting for.
Hey, why didn't you just yell, "Look out"?
In those episodes, Cobra tried to steal a powerful satellite. Duke was captured and held prisoner, and both sides clashed over erupting volcanoes and in the middle of the ocean, until the Joes finally located Cobra's secret base, took down Destro, and captured Cobra Commander. That same year, Hasbro re-released several figures from the original lineup and introduced 8 brand new characters sold individually, 7 more bundled with vehicles, and 2 exclusive mail-away figures. The G.I. Joe roster was finally starting to get really exciting.
Destro's a genius. His is unbeatable. Surprise attack! Call in the Wolverine. Go get him, Cover Girl.
G.I. Joe, American hero.
So long, Wolverine.
After acquiring the license, Parker Brothers developed and released the very first G.I. Joe video game, which, for better or worse, made its debut on the legendary Atari.
In each of us, there is both good guy and bad guy. In the G.I. Joe video game, you can be G.I. Joe, fighting for right and justice. Or the singular villain Cobra, battling other players with laser blast and venom bombs. You can defend, attack, save, destroy. Play the courageous hero or the unspeakable villain. The choice is yours.
In September of 1984, a brand new 5-part miniseries aired on TV. And of course, new characters and vehicles started showing up on toy store shelves. Among them, one of my all-time favorites, the White Ninja, Cobra's own Storm Shadow. Meanwhile, Marvel's comic book series kept coming out monthly, and the success of the animated show only fueled the craze for the action figures, which in turn boosted comic sales. It became a never-ending snowball that led Hasbro to launch one of the most epic toys of all time, the massive, jaw-dropping USS Flag.
Introducing the G.I. Joe USS Flag aircraft carrier. Imagine being on the deck of this aircraft carrier.
It was pure madness, something not everyone could afford, and not just because of the price tag, but because of the sheer space it took up. That same year, a more modest but seriously awesome vehicle hit the shelves. The first time I saw it, it completely blew my mind.
Cobra blew up the bridge. Bridge Rider to the rescue. The Horse Striker will catch him.
Horse Striker comes with crankcase.
A few years ago, my band played at a couple of U.S. military bases, and besides seeing some jaw-dropping aircraft, I came face to face with this beast, the real-life bridge layer. Yeah, the very same one from G.I. Joe, just massive and right in front of me. A lot of the vehicles in the G.I. Joe toy line were modeled after actual military aircraft, jeeps, tanks, and assault vehicles. In September of 1985, a company called Epix developed and released a G.I. Joe video game for the Apple II and Commodore 64. The mission? Capture 8 Cobra soldiers, switching between vehicle combat and one-on-one fights. Now, we're not saying this was the greatest game ever made, but for its time, pretty solid. In September of 1985, what's considered the first full season of G.I. Joe hit the airwaves, beyond those initial 2 miniseries. 55 brand new episodes followed the same formula, packed with new characters and fresh challenges. That same year, a whole wave of new action figures dropped, but listing them all one by one? Yeah, that'd be pure madness. Just in 1985 alone, Hasbro released 28 new characters. The following year, with Season 2 and its 30 brand new episodes, they rolled out another 34, including some character variants. In 1987, boom, 40 more. And in 1988, yet another 40. Among them, one that's really close to my heart, Hit and Run, the Light Infantryman. Also in 87, Virgin Games released another G.I. Joe video game, this time for home computers in the European market. A classic shoot 'em up. It does the job, but yeah, it kind of drowns in its own monotony. A sequel hit the shelves a year later titled Action Force 2 International Heroes. Another platformer, once again published by Virgin Games, but this time exclusively for the ZX Spectrum. The mission? Rescue a group of civilians taken hostage by Cobra. Back in the US, the G.I. Joe market was starting to get a little crowded. But at the same time, the franchise was beginning to find new life overseas. One of those places was Argentina, where a company called Plastirama picked up the license to manufacture and distribute the toys locally.
¡Oh, no! ¡Es una trampa! No es fácil atrapar a un Cobra, el enemigo de G.I. Joe.
Tanque Cobra Kiss con la magia de Plastirama.
In Argentina, a few unique variants were produced, now known as the Argent 7. These figures were never released in the United States, and over time, they've become real collector's treasures. In Venezuela, the company Ruby Plaz followed suit, bringing both the action figures and vehicles into the hands of local kids.
¡Los atacan los Cobras! ¡Disparen! ¡Soldados, desembarquen! ¡Listos para atacar! ¡Cuidado con el Cobra! ¡Sí, rey!
Adquiere ya la colección Comandos Heroicos G.I. Joe de Ruby Plaz.
The G.I. Joe phenomenon managed to spread all around the world, though in many cases its American identity was toned down to appeal to a broader audience. In the UK, the first figures were produced by Palitoy under the name Action Man, and the 80s cartoon aired as Action Force. In Brazil, the company Estrela rebranded them as Comandos Emação, or Action Commandos. In Mexico, companies like Oricon sometimes used names like Comandos Heroicos or Heroic Commandos. And while Spain kept the original name of the series, what did change was the name of the enemy faction.
¡Perderemos una lección!
El Devil Fish frente al fuego balístico. ¿Qué ocurrirá? Próximo episodio en tu casa.
In September of 1989, 5 new episodes hit the small screen. A year later, a brand new season kicked off with 19 all-new episodes.
You know you got to stand tall when it comes down to the wire.
In September of 1991, 20 brand new episodes made up the second season of this new chapter, an effort to breathe new life into the franchise and win over a new generation of kids.
America's top secret mobile strike force team. The mission to defend freedom. The threat, Cobra.
Riding on the franchise's popularity and reusing the classic G.I. Joe molds, Hasbro acquired the rights to the 2 most popular fighting games of the 90s. In 1993, they released a line of Street Fighter II action figures, along with a few vehicles that, honestly, had nothing to do with the actual game.
You know them, you love them. So correcto!
In 1994, Hasbro did the same with the characters from Mortal Kombat, and as if that wasn't enough, that same year they launched a new Street Fighter line, this time based on the movie starring Jean-Claude Van Damme and Raul Julia. In 1995, they brought Mortal Kombat figures back to shelves, now inspired by that year's live-action film. Back then, Hasbro didn't want to miss out on any business opportunity.
Mortal Kombat action figures and movie action figures each sold separately.
Without a doubt, G.I. Joe was an incredible phenomenon that many people remember fondly, thanks to an entertaining cartoon, gripping comic books, and an unforgettable toy line. Tell me in the comments, did you watch the animated series? Did you have any G.I. Joe figures or vehicles growing up? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share this video with your friends. See you next time.